Getting the job you want would be amazing, right? But first, you have to have a successful job interview in English to have your dream job. Without that, you're stuck. So, job interview preparation is one of the most common requests I receive from my students, and I understand why. So, getting the job you want could change your life. A job you love could increase your salary. Awesome. Who doesn't want a higher salary? Create opportunities to travel and communicate with people all over the world. Double awesome. And it can also bring more fulfillment and joy to your daily work life. Triple awesome. So, what would happen if you had the opportunity to interview for the job that you dream for? Well, let's get you ready with 4 interesting tips that will help you with a successful job interview in English. If there is a job interview in English waiting for you, I want you to be 100% ready to go and confident in your English abilities. So this is Michelle and you're watching me on Skillopedia, the place to learn skills for the real world. Let's get started. Did you know your job interview starts the moment you walk in the door? So usually the first impression matters, and I know that you know that. But this includes how you're dressed. Let's save that for another time. Today we are going to mainly focus on your body language or your non-verbal communication. We are going to talk about how this makes a difference to your overall interview. So your non-verbal communication is how you stand, how you sit, how you shake your hand, what you do with your hands and your feet, where your eyes look. Okay, now don't get nervous. I'm going to help you with each one. We're going to focus on what to do and also what not to do. So usually you can be very impressive and appear confident right from the start if you've got your body language in place. So you have to stand and sit up straight. So if you're not sure how you appear, you can practice walking, standing, and sitting in front of a mirror. So look at yourself and notice. Are you slouching, like are your shoulders bending, or are you shrinking? Or are you sitting with your back straight? Does it look natural? You need to practice so that it feels comfortable and natural for you. Next, you need to use a firm handshake. So of course, every culture has a different way of greeting, but in professional English-speaking culture, you need to have a good handshake. Now this means a firm handshake, but not a tight grip. You don't want to hurt the interviewer, right? But you don't want to seem weak either. So be careful to have not a tight grip, but a firm handshake. The other one is to keep your hands and feet still. Yes, it's very likely that you will be feeling nervous because most of us do when we're part of an interview, and under much pressure we feel nervous. But when you tap your feet or fidget with your hands, it actually shows that you're nervous. So even though you're nervous, you don't have to show it. Plus, it's a bit distracting to move your feet and your hands. So your goal is to look confident and professional. So before your interview, you need to practice answering questions out loud and be sure to practice your body language as well. The next one is to keep your eyes focused and look your interviewer in the eye. Now this shouldn't look very rude like this, but it has to look more polite and natural. So eye contact is essential. We use eye contact to show that we are listening and we are focusing on the discussion. So no eye contact communicates that you're bored, annoyed, or just not listening. So it's important that you look at the speaker, because this will show that you're interested and you're giving your full attention to the person. Now, during your job interview, you will be asked many challenging questions. For example, have you ever had a disagreement with your boss? What happened and how did you deal with it? Another one, how would you describe your leadership style? Again, this is a very challenging question. Another one could be, what is the most challenging part of working with a team and how do you manage it? Now, these are all challenging questions. And in each of these questions, the interviewer is basically looking for information about your behavior, about your personality, how you work with others, and other information about how you behave. So it's possible that sometimes somebody who may not have an exact answer may give a very vague answer. Vague means an answer which is not definite, which is not specific. But the most important part of your answer is that it needs to be clear, concrete, and it must have a real life experience. Sometimes we have this temptation to give a general vague answer like, oh, I would usually just have a meeting with my boss to talk about it, but we never really disagreed. Now that is a lie. We all have times when we disagree, especially with our bosses. And that answer isn't enough. So instead, you can share a specific story or event. You can talk about one specific time when you disagreed with your boss. So how would you do that? Well, let me give you a list of questions that can help you answer this question. If I give you a particular example that might be more relevant to my personal life, but I want to give you some questions which will help you navigate your thoughts to answer these questions more specifically and more better. So you could think of what was the situation. You could think of who, what, where, when, how, and why something happened. You could also talk about what was the specific challenge or difficulty of the situation. The other one is what action did you take? Okay, and then what was the final result? Do you know that this is actually called the STAR technique? So in the STAR technique, you give the situation, you tell what the task as in the problem was, what action did you take, and what was the result. So this shows how you tackled or managed a certain situation, and you also display competent behavior through which you reacted to the situation and had a successful result. So this is how you can answer some challenging behavioral questions in interviews using the STAR technique, which includes situation, task, action, and result. Now that you know how to answer interview questions, let's talk about expectations for what you should say about yourself. So of course, in the interviews, you're asked questions like what's your strength and what's your weakness. So I can again give you some relevant answers, but that may not help you as much as the guideline about how to talk about strengths and weaknesses. So a job interview is your chance to promote yourself. This is where you actually focus on what you're good at, your special strengths, your unique talents, or your USPs, how you solved problems, and how you've been awesome at previous jobs. Now, I know that this is a bit uncomfortable for some people because some of us just like to be humble, and we might feel embarrassed when we have to blow our own trumpet, which means when we have to praise ourselves. But when you're interviewing, you don't have to worry about this because it is 100% expected that you highlight yourself and you show confidence in who you are. So once again, preparing ahead of time will help you do this. So what I think you should do is you should create a list of your strengths and skills. You should write down what do you do particularly well in your work. You could also highlight some problems you've solved and then use these notes to help you remember your answers. But do remember, while showing confidence is important, you need to find a right balance so you don't appear arrogant. So actually there's a very thin line between what confidence says and what arrogance says. Let me tell you. Confidence says, I'm good at, I can solve problems such as. But arrogance says, I'm better or smarter or more important than this person or that person. And then you give reasons. So I'm sure you don't want to be arrogant, but you want to sound more confident by giving examples of your personality where you have succeeded. So now we know how to answer questions. We also know how to talk about ourselves. But now, at the end of the interview, you will have a chance to ask questions as well. So in an interview, you don't just answer, but you ask questions as well. So don't miss this chance. Now, I know again, this might seem a bit uncomfortable or odd. You know, asking questions in an interview, you'd be like, really? People don't do that here. Well, but I think this is that can set you apart from your competition for that position. Because I'm not asking you to ask any irrelevant questions, but I'm asking you to put across very relevant and on-point questions. I'll give you some examples. So when you ask smart questions at the end of an interview, it shows that you're truly interested in the job. And it also gives a chance to find out more about the company as well. So you want to make sure it is a good place for you to be, isn't it? I'm sure you want to make an informed choice. So if you're not sure about what questions to ask, let me give you some options. First one is, you could ask, what did the previous employee do to succeed in this position? You could also say, what qualities or skills do you think are necessary to be successful in this position? And if you're more career-led, you could ask questions about CPD, which means continuing professional development. You could say, what are the job growth opportunities with this position? Or otherwise, you could simply say, do you have any questions or concerns about my qualifications for this job? So this way you can ask some questions at the end of your interview to sound more clever and also to make an informed choice about whether you want to work with that company or not. So now it's time for you to tell me, have you ever interviewed in English before? I'm sure you have. Or will you have an English job interview in the future? Probably. So if you have completed a job interview in English, what is your number one piece of advice for others? What helped you the most in preparing for your interview? And also you need to tell me, what is your greatest concern or fear about job interviews in English? I hope I can help you with that. I really look forward to hearing from you and chatting with you in the comments. Thank you for staying tuned with me till the very end. See you very soon. This is Skillopedia, the place to learn skills for the real world. Come back for more amazing content. See you soon. Bye-bye.